here at the Dark Horse with the first analysis video that we've done in quite a while. I know we did some stuff with the high school editions, the transfer editions, but I don't think we've done one of these in person since the season ended, right?
Yeah, it was probably at Rice-Eccles Stadium that we did our last one, and the post-mortem on the end of the season. So it's good to see you.
We're almost on the other side of winter, and spring ball is just around the corner. And this team has gotten to work with Maurice Sims and the strength and conditioning staff. We've seen them implementing some military training in their work and really getting creative. Has anything stood out with you and just kind of the work that they've done here early since reconvening for the spring semester?
Well, I think it's kind of the same things you see a lot of off seasons, but there's what I'm seeing is it gets fans excited to see the work, right? And you like the military training they're doing, and it looks like they're building team chemistry. That was one thing that I thought was interesting about the Prime documentary is, going into last season, we asked a lot of questions about team chemistry, and the Buffs a lot of times were like, we're good. That doesn't matter as much. Well, in the Prime documentary, I remember Shane Cokes and some of those guys talking about, maybe we didn't have that quite the way we wanted to, and to me, when I see the military training and stuff, that's part of that. They need to build that up, maybe more so than they did last year. And so I like seeing some of that stuff, and Travis Hunter interacting with the teammates really well, and all those guys. And so that to me is what stands out, is that team camaraderie.
Yeah. To respond to what you were saying, first off, it's cool that Colorado fans get the access to see these workouts, because that's not something that they've had access to in the past. We'd maybe get an opportunity to talk to the strength and conditioning coach, get a few Q&As out during the offseason, but this is really allowing fans to see what this team is building towards, and also kind of the personality side of a lot of these guys as well. And then to your point about maybe the lack of team chemistry showing at times last year, I think it wasn't disingenuous what they were saying last year, but until you face adversity, it's really kind of hard to get to that next level and see where that leadership really is. And you can go back to 2014, 2015 here at Colorado, and it took those guys to have some tough losses and to get humbled a little bit to really come back in self-police within the locker room. And that was something that I saw in a recent Well-Off Media video where Coach Prime was asking leaders in different groups to raise their hand, and guys were not hesitant the way they were a year ago, maybe to say that I am a leader in this group, and there was one position group where everybody raised their hand. And so I think that's coming together, and I don't know what happens if you don't collapse at Stanford. Does that leadership ever, does that issue ever get to the point that it did last year if you don't have that? I don't know, but I think with a solid group being here for a full offseason already, and then another group kind of learning the ropes under those guys, that you have a better chance at team chemistry.
Yeah, and I certainly didn't mean to say that they were kind of lying about the team chemistry, but I think that as they went throughout the season, they thought, okay, wow, maybe it was more important than we thought, and maybe it wasn't as good as we thought. And but you're right. I mean, there's so many of those things that they can lean on, events that happen like the Stanford game, things like that, that maybe they recognize the importance of it, and that maybe it wasn't as good as we thought. I think it's a big deal in the offseason to get that going, and I think it helps that you're not turning over the entire roster, kind of like you did last year, but that you're bringing in new pieces, and there is more of that chemistry that Coach Prime talked about it, that this year we're kind of plugging in holes where we need it. And there's a lot of these guys that have been here now that know what our program is like. I think that's a huge deal that maybe is not talked about enough, that that foundation is set. With guys, and it's not just Shedeur and Shiloh and Travis, and but Jimmy Horn, Shane Cokes, Levanta Bentley. There's a ton of guys. Caleb Mathis, guys like that have now been here for a year, that they can teach guys coming in. This is how we do things. And last year was just everybody trying to figure it out together, and now this year, it's bringing in the few guys that are coming in and saying, here's how we do it.
And watching those videos, I don't know if Travis Hunter has ever broken a sweat.
Right. Yeah, we're still waiting on that, right?
It's pretty incredible just to watch him moving around the practice fields. And I was asked what I'm most excited about for spring ball, and I was like, as much as we talk about Travis Hunter, I still have to start there, because you'd assume that he's going pro after this coming year. And so your opportunities to see that level of an athlete here in Boulder, they have a lot of other great players in the program. They're going to recruit more great players in the program, but he's kind of a generational type talent.
Yeah, and he's the first guy really, it wasn't that long ago, but Laviska Shenault was this way. You just knew he was only going to be here 3 years. It became obvious after his sophomore year. He's gone after one more year. And you kind of had that sense of, enjoy it. Let's enjoy Laviska Shenault as much as we can. And that's what I think was the hardest part about him getting injured was that we didn't get to see him as much. And same a little bit with Travis last year. He misses those games. And people wanted to see Travis Hunter. And Travis to me is even a level higher than Laviska Shenault. And so I think let's just enjoy it. I'm excited to see Travis, whatever he does, however many opportunities we get. Hopefully it's 13, 14, 15 opportunities to see him play. But however many opportunities, just enjoy it because we're not going to see somebody like him probably in a long time.
The vast majority of the newcomers are already on campus here competing. One guy they're going to have to wait a little bit longer to get in the program is BJ Green, who's expected to transfer in from Arizona State. First off, it's a really cool story. He starts out at Arizona State as a walk-on, earns a scholarship by the end of his freshman year, and last year was graded out as their best defensive player. And it wasn't just his sacks. I think he was credited with, six sacks? But he had 56 hurries, according to Pro Football Focus. He had, 14 hits on top of that. And then it just was off the charts in terms of how disruptive he was. And so you put him in with an Arden Walker. You put him in with a Samuel Okunlola, who was really starting to catch his stride and tied for the team lead at Pittsburgh in sacks last year. And a lot of the guys that you return in that group, and even Tajay McCoy, who we heard a lot of great stuff about last year, and he looks like he's put on some good weight since he's been on campus. I don't know if there's a group that has upgraded its talent more than the edge group this offseason, and this is with Nick Williams leaving the staff.
Yeah, and you look at the two true freshmen that are coming in at that position as well, Brandon Davis-Swain and Eric Brantley. They were highly productive guys as far as sack numbers in high school, and so that group, and they may not even see the field, who knows, but I like that group. And BJ Green, he earns that scholarship by leading the team in sacks as a true freshman walk-on. It was only 5, but still only the 4th true freshman to lead ASU in sacks. And he got Shador once this last year. Had a career high in tackles with 7 against the Buffs, and so Buff fans know him. I mean, they've seen him. He's a legit football player.
And he's in mechanical engineering at Arizona State. Will Shepard's not here because he's getting his degree from Vanderbilt. So at least the guys that aren't here right now have a pretty good reason for the delay in their arrival. Even Shiloh Sanders last year had to wait because he wanted to graduate from Jackson State before joining the mix out here.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, Chris Livingston, who does a lot of the academic stuff for CU, has got to be loving it with all these smart guys coming in, and she's already got a bunch of smart guys that are on this team. But bringing in guys like that, it makes her job happy, or it makes her happy with her job.
And it's one last point here to close out this video, Brian. It's crazy. Signing day is coming up.
Yeah.
And there's really not a whole lot going on because the process has become so accelerated. And on top of that, Colorado has gone so much focused on transfers. Well, the transfer market is not really closed, but it's kind of a delay in there because you get the guys in for the spring semester and then you wait for the spring transfer window, which is going to be from May 1st to the 15th this year. So what you see right now is offers going out to 2025 recruits, 2026 recruits, and even some 2027 recruits. It's kind of the old spring evaluation period has become what the winter looks like now. And so I don't even know if they're going to sign a guy during the regular signing period. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but things have been pretty quiet there.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're going to sign anybody, but I know that Buff fans are keeping an eye on like the Boston College roster now. Now that they've got a head coach opening and that window's open for those guys. But again, to your point, and it should be made that whoever they bring in at this point will not be here until the end of the spring because they can't get here in time to be a part of this semester. And so anybody that commits now, they're going to have to wait and probably hold their breath a little bit that nobody else poaches them by May. And so they're still going to add some people. Linebacker, I think they still need. I would still like to see another inside linebacker, probably another running back piece, although I love their running backs. But those are probably a couple positions I look at and say, you probably want a little more depth there.
Yeah. I'm anxious to see if Cam Michael might fit in as a running back coming in because that would maybe alleviate some of the depth concerns there. But no, I think that you've seen depth improve in a lot of spots, but you still look at linebacker, to your point. And Coach Prime said the other day 1 or 2 more guys they need to add there. And DJ Lundy not deciding to stick with his commitment here kind of hurt because I think he was exactly what they needed as a run stuffer on defense. And I've been asked, has the delay in a defensive coordinator hire been the issue? And I think with some of these guys going elsewhere, even with some of the high school guys they came in late on, it's been more of an NIL issue than the staff situation, because a lot of these guys they want to go play for Coach Prime, and that's the presence that's going to get them to commit here. But as they get that shored up, maybe that will help during the spring transfer window as well, with those linebackers kind of having a clearer view of what this scheme is going to look like with the new DC.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that DC position, because it does sound like Coach Prime is looking NFL for that position. But and I think the idea there is that attracts some of these guys that are on their way to going to the NFL, and so we'll see if that has an impact. If they get an NFL type of DC, maybe all of a sudden some of those transfers look at CU more, because that guy can help them get there just next year.
All right, well, we're at the Dark Horse. Let's go in there and get a burger, and then we'll come out and we'll talk about Colorado's schedule, which was released earlier this week.